Recently, the United Nations Development Programme (UNDP) in Vietnam collaborated with a number of agencies to publish a report on Provincial Governance and Public Administration Performance Index (PAPI). PAPI Index is the largest sociological survey in Vietnam. PAPI Index is based on people's experiences and assessments when interacting with local authorities. The PAPI Index measures the effectiveness of governance and public administration at the provincial level every year through 8 dimensions: participation at local levels, transparency, vertical accountability, control of corruption, public administrative procedures, public service delivery, environmental governance, and e-governments. From 2009 to 2019, more than 131,500 people participated in assessing the effectiveness of governance and public administration from direct interaction with government at all levels. The PAPI Index 2019 surveyed 14,138 Vietnamese citizens randomly selected across 63 provinces. The PAPI 2019 report highlights the value in evaluating governance and public administration reforms of a decade and compares governance performance against the national goals and sustainable development, which recognizes good improvements in most dimensions of governance. Greetings from Sharing Vietnam on VTC10 Netviet. For more than a decade, the PAPI Index has collected and analyzed the views and experiences of more than 130,000 Vietnamese people to assess government efforts in participation at local levels, public administrative procedures, transparency, vertical accountability, control of corruption, public service delivery, environmental governance, and e-governments. These are extremely important elements for Vietnam's sustainable development. So how has the trend of this index changed over the past 10 years? And what are the noticeable results in the recent 2019 survey? In today's program, we'll talk with Ms. Catherine Phương, UNDP expert on this topic. Thank you for joining our interview today. So the first question is, could you please share about the outstanding results in the PAPI Index survey in 2019? In your opinion, what are the highlights of the PAPI 2019 Index?
So the PAPI Index is a survey of Vietnamese citizens. It's the largest survey of Vietnamese citizens. And in 2019, we interviewed more than 14,000 citizens. Once again, in all 63 provinces of Vietnam. What we have seen from the findings for 2019 is that we have seen improvements in most of the 6 core dimensions of PAPI. So if you remember the 6 core dimensions of PAPI, they cover transparency in local decision-making, control of corruption in the public sector, or public administrative procedure. There is also delivery of public services, so very important governance dimensions. And we have seen improvements in 5 of the 6 dimensions. So the only one that hasn't improved this year is public administrative procedures. But one dimension where we have seen some significant improvement is control of corruption in the public sector. And this is very encouraging to see. So this is one of the interesting findings from the 2019 survey on the 6 core dimensions.
This year's PAPI report devotes a chapter to gender and leadership analysis. So what are the findings of this report?
Now, I want to start by saying that generally on gender and leadership, Vietnam is doing quite well compared to other countries. If you look at UNDP Human Development reports, Vietnam is actually in the top 3rd countries globally, in terms of representation of women in politics. So, for example, in the National Assembly, you have 27% of members of the National Assembly who are women. Now, having said that, PAPI digs a little bit into, results. And it shows that when it comes to position of political leadership, most citizens, do not have any bias against women when it comes to national position. So National Assembly, for example, or representative positions, like in village councils. But interestingly, when it comes to leadership position, and especially when it comes to the position of village head, it shows that, a lot of citizens have more bias against women. So it was quite interesting to make that distinction in the PAPI research. So we can see that most people are happy to vote for women for representative positions, but when it comes to leadership position, especially at the village level, there was a lot more voter bias against women. And if you look at the statistics, and there are no official statistics on how many village heads are women, from what we've observed, only about 10–15% of village heads are women. So this is definitely an important finding from the PAPI report, that we need to make a lot more effort to have more women as village heads.
In 2019, the biggest improvement was recorded in the field of corruption control in the public sector and improved accountability and transparency in decision-making. This result is consistent with the reform efforts that have attracted a great deal of public opinion, with a key point in the anti-corruption campaign involving a number of key leaders.
We have seen the most significant improvements in the areas of control of corruption, which is most strongly correlated with overall citizen satisfaction, and transparency and local decision-making. This is a testament to the strong commitment of central and local leaders to improve governance. Building on these improvements, we encourage them to continue to drive these reforms forward.
However, the PAPI report stated the score of the public administrative procedure dimension was almost unchanged and even decreased slightly in 2019, despite the improvement of the corporate sector and efforts to promote e-governance in recent years to simplify procedures for the people. Therefore, these efforts should be further strengthened to encourage people to access and benefit from the transition to using online public services as in the business sector.
Trong các cái tỉnh, thành phố lớn và rất là giàu có và có cái điều kiện kinh tế xã hội thì có cái kết quả rất là khác nhau. Đà Nẵng thì vẫn nằm trong cái nhóm đứng đầu như là trong những năm qua. Thành phố Hồ Chí Minh thì nằm trong nhóm trung bình khá. Thế còn Hà Nội thì rất là đáng tiếc lại vẫn tiếp tục nằm ở nhóm yếu nhất trong cả nước. Như vậy chúng ta cũng thấy rằng là cái nội lực về mặt kinh tế chưa chắc nó đã phản ánh được cái chất lượng của quản trị và hành chính công.
Having analyzed the effectiveness of public administration and management for nearly a decade, the 2019 report shows a positive trend in almost the whole country in the last 5 years, with 5 of the 6 dimensions in which the PAPI index measurement has improved. The provincial average score for 6 executive years increased from 34 points in 2015 to 37.4 points in 2019, highlighting the improvement in provincial governance efficiency of the current government tenure from 2016 to 2021. These results are useful information to help the government of Vietnam to make more effective policies to improve the efficiency of public governance. Hello and welcome back to the online interview with Ms. Catherine Phương, the UNDP expert on the topic of PAPI Index 2019. How do you assess the delivery and effectiveness of the online public service in Vietnam? How is the effectiveness of online public service at the time of a COVID-19 epidemic in Vietnam assessed by UNDP?
I would say the delivery of government services online has probably not been as effective as the government would have liked. If you look at the figures on internet use, you can see from the PAPI index that the use of internet by Vietnamese citizens continues to increase. So if you look at 2018, I think we were at 52.7% of respondents were using the internet at home. And this has increased quite a lot in the last year. For 2019, we had 59% of respondents using the internet at home. So we see an increase in the use of internet. So we should see an increase in the use of e-government services. But in fact, we haven't actually seen such a corresponding increase in 2019. Now, having said that, the survey was conducted in the middle of 2019. And I want to highlight that the government has since then launched national e-government portals at the end of last year. And in the last few months, we have seen a dramatic increase in the use of e-government portals by citizens during the COVID-19 situation. And we have also seen much increase in government efforts to improve e-government portals. And actually, I want to mention here that UNDP is trying to support these government efforts, and that we are launching today a survey for citizens on online government portals. And that will really help us and the government improved, those services. So I encourage all your viewers to take that survey, which is available on the UNDP Vietnam Facebook page.
From the results of the PAPI Index 2019, in your opinion, what should the policymakers in Vietnam take note when Vietnam enters the recovery phase after the COVID-19 epidemic?
So let me start by saying that Vietnam has done amazingly well at managing the COVID-19 situation. And the figures, really speak for themselves. I come from France. We have more than 21,000 deaths so far of COVID-19. And in Vietnam, you have 0. So this is a great achievement so far, which doesn't mean, of course, that, we don't have to make more efforts to continue to manage the situation and promote recovery. A lot of people have been affected by the COVID-19 situation in Vietnam, and not all groups have been affected in the same way. What we can, I think, show from the PAPI survey is that some groups are definitely more vulnerable than others when it comes to poverty and the risk of falling back into poverty. So if you look at the 2019 report, which of course reflects, a survey that was conducted before the COVID-19 situation, you can see that people who had no access to social insurance, or people who were working in the agricultural sector, were much more concerned about their own economic situation and the situation of the country. So I would say that, for the authorities and the government, these are important lessons to show that, we need to pay particular attention to vulnerable groups.
Once again, thank you, Ms. Catherine Phương, for joining our interview today. PAPI 2019 Index has many important findings. During the 2 government terms from 2011 to 2019, the performance of the provincial government has constantly been improved and most improved year by year, most notably the corruption control. PAPI 2019 is considered as a useful source of information for policymakers in 2020, a pivotal year for Vietnam's new development stage. And that's all we have for this episode of Sharing Vietnam Today. Thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.